Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Previously, we started checking out those little bonus episodes. They're pretty lovely, delightfully fluffy, just a good pleasant time, so I'm excited to see more. Let's go to special contents here. One, escapades. In Shom's suite, this fourth escapade unfolds one morning on Baker Street, when Iris has prepared breakfast for everyone as usual. But Ryunosuke wakes to find an envelope under his door containing a death threat. Who on earth could have put it there, and why? Now that's grim. Huh. March. I can't quite place this on the game's timeline. Good morning, Iris. Good morning, Mr. Sholmes. Oh, morning, Susie. I'll get breakfast on the table for us all. Ah, Mr. Sholmes. Morning. Come now, why the long face? Oh, sorry. The thing is, I just had a rather strange envelope posted under my door this morning, with some rather strange things inside. What strange things? Oh, what is it, Runo? Do I catch the scent of a mystery in the air? Nothing so exciting, I'm afraid, Iris. It was just 5 orange pips. I can't imagine what it could possibly... What? Orange pips, Mr. Naruhodo? And 5 of them? What's the matter with you? That's a bit of an overreaction, isn't it? An overreaction? Mr. Naruhodo, you don't understand. It's a warning, a notice of imminent danger to your life. What? To my life? What's the meaning of all of this, Mr. Sholmes? My dear fellow, why do you make such an inquiry of me? Because the name of the sender was written on the envelope, and it was yours. Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't the only way to access Ryunosuke's doors is to enter the Sholmes residence? Oh, you're right, Runo. It says, sent by Sholmes, Envoy of Hell. Spider-Man? Is that you? There's only one Envoy of Hell I know of, and it's Spider-Man. So my little ploy has been exposed. Well, so be it. Cast your mind back, if you will, Mr. Naruhodo, to the time of our dining last night. Oh, yes. Miss Usato cooked Japanese food for us. Indeed. In particular, you may recall the final norimaki sushi roll that I was about to savor. That is, before you swooped in with your clacking chopsticks and filched it from under my nose. Okay, this is understandable. I would make a death threat if someone stole my sushi. Oh, I assumed because you left it that you didn't want it. I left it, my dear fellow, because I had planned to enjoy it as my very last mouthful. Surely you must have noted my intent by the subtle dilation of my right pupil? I don't... Why do you tell lies? You can't tell when your own pupils are dilated. Perhaps a clearer sign would be helpful next time. Just an idea. In summary, the post you received earlier is a notice of impending revenge. You should be quaking in your boots. Really? Because I went straight out into the garden and planted them. I'm hopeful we may grow some exotic fruit. There's no point sending a notice of impending revenge if the person you send it to doesn't know what it is. Well, I knew, of course, because I've read this book. The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. On sale now in all major London bookshops and receiving rave reviews. The text on that book looks weird. It looks like CIUGETBTTIO. It's weird. Oh, yes, of course. It's finally been published, hasn't it? I hear it's selling very well.
It is. 12 short stories in one volume. I've earned a lifetime spending money already.
And it has further bolstered my name. In fact, only the other day a Bohemian king sought to engage my services. Really? That's extraordinary. Of course, the gentleman persisted with some pretense about being a fishmonger for the duration. But only a fool would presume to be able to deceive my eyes with such a charade. So how did you know that he was a king, then? Why, there is no mystery, my dear fellow. A distinct smell of fish accompanied the man's lowly apparel. And though he tried to hide it, the left side of his mustache quivered in quite manifest manner. He thinks kings smell like fish? Huh?
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, that's simply brilliant.
Having neatly resolved the case for the man, I was sent a quantity of fresh cod as a mark of his appreciation. I think perhaps you shouldn't discount the possibility that he actually was a fishmonger. You know, fishmonger is such a weird word to me. Like, I don't understand the root word. I've never heard of to mon something. I mean, I know a monger is someone who, like, sells stuff at market. Kind of, like, shouts out their barking stuff for their ads and all that, but it's kind of weird.
Ah, is that? Can anyone else smell burning?
Oh, yes, you're right. And look, smoke. I think maybe... Fire! Fire! There's a fire, everyone!
Really? A fire?
We must all leave at once. Everyone out of the building. Is it in the fireplace? No, wait, I have to go back to my room first. Are you deranged? If you're not asphyxiated by the smoke, the flames will burn you to death. But my Dharma doll, I can't let my Dharma burn. It means too much. Sorry, but I'm going to make a dash for it upstairs.
Oh, Runo, you're so funny.
This is no time for jokes, Iris. Go, quickly, get out of here.
But there is no fire. Is there, Hurley?
Huh?
Oh, what a delight to see that ploy enacted in the flesh. I wouldn't have dared to dream I should be so lucky.
Miss Usato? Indeed it was a ploy. A devilment engineered by my puckish spirit. It was all a trick? But why? It is a simple experiment of the mind, Mr. Naruhodo. When his life is threatened, a fellow is compelled instinctively to protect that property to which he attaches matching importance. Uh-oh.
And after your own life, Runo, the most important thing to you seems to be your Dharma doll.
Let's not dwell on that, shall we, Iris? So you knew all along, Mr. Sato, that it was a trick?
Yes, of course. The very ploy is described in this book. The Adventures of Herlock Sholmes. On sale now in all major London bookshops and receiving rave reviews.
Not again. I have used that device quite satisfactorily in the past to solve a case.
Oh yes, it was a great success, wasn't it? But then it became something of a habit, didn't it? You started yelling fire at every crime scene. In the end, people started to pay no attention to you at all.
Yes, that's true. There was a time when I was known as the Sholmes who cried wolf. I think there's a lesson to be learned in there somewhere. But sadly, my little ploy failed to yield results this time. Iris was utterly unmoved.
What do you mean?
Well, I was anticipating that Iris would immediately expose her secret hiding place. The location of the nest egg she must have cached somewhere in this room. Oh, the money she was talking about.
Nest egg? You think Iris has some secret savings?
Why, naturally. The book is selling like hotcakes after all. It is a simple deduction indeed to conclude that the profits must be concealed here within these walls.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, are you in need of money? Ah, I bet I know what it is. It's that new microscope that's gone on sale, isn't it, Hurley?
What else? I have such a strong desire to own one, yet my purse is £1 too light. And as no offer of a loan has been forthcoming, I have been forced to resort to an alternative stratagem.
Sorry, Hurley, but I'm not falling for that. Not coming from the Sholmes who cried wolf.
Ugh, how vexing.
You really shouldn't be trying to steal a 10-year-old's savings, you know. My book is full of little tricks like that, you see. The armory of the great detective.
Except that in this case, both the orange pips and the fake fire fell a little flat, didn't they? Oh, I have plenty more tricks up my sleeve. Take, for example, the case of the Boscombe Valley mystery. I'm already filled with dread just from the title. It is a tale of extraordinary skill on the part of the great detective. The skill of tracking.
Tracking?
When I arrived at the scene of the crime in the eponymous valley, there were footprints everywhere. But my eye was immediately drawn to one set in particular.
Oh, Mr. Sholmes, your detective instincts are truly remarkable.
As you know, my dear madame, no detail, no matter how small, escapes the scrutiny of these eyes. So I tracked my quarry, following the trail of his footprints all the way to the man's place of residence.
It led you directly to the culprit's house? What a triumph.
You misunderstand. It led me directly to my own house, my dear fellow.
Huh?
For the footprints were, in the final analysis, those made by my own shoes.
Hurley had left here for Boscombe Valley as soon as he received the telegram about the case, you see. And then he followed his own trail straight back here to Baker Street.
Now, Iris, please, you make it sound almost humdrum, but I assure you it is no easy feat. Tracking of this nature is a skill possessed only by the great Herlock Sholmes.
I love this man. You're right. It really is extraordinary.
Quite so. Extraordinary is the word, and let it be the last on the subject. Anyway, needless to say, I subsequently went on to solve the case with various other deductions.
Yes, it's the various other deductions that I'm interested in.
Ah, well, you shall have to read the book then. I'm sure Iris has penned it with her usual flourish.
Oh, absolutely! I've put an ingenious spin on the great detective's exploits.
It must have been very ingenious to make this man sound even remotely credible as a detective.
Wait, is that? Does it smell like something's burning again?
We've had enough devilment for one day, Mr. Sholmes. Put your Puckish spirit to bed.
Puck is a fairy.
I assure you this has nothing to do with me or my spirit.
What? Oh no, the smoke is getting thicker.
You mean it's not a trick this time? There really is a... Fire! Fire! There's a fire, everyone!
Ah!
Mr. Sato, where are you going? Stand aside, Mr. Naruhodo.
Ah, easy, Mr. Sholmes. What are you... Mr. Sholmes? Why did he just chuck that bust of Napoleon on the floor? Oh, look at that. In amongst all the broken porcelain. Coins. Sovereigns, in fact. Worth a whole £1 each.
Come, everyone. We must leave at once. Evacuate the building.
You fell for it, Hurley. Hook, line, and sinker.
Wait, you mean Iris?
I certainly wouldn't have guessed that's where you'd hidden it.
Do you mean to say that this smoke was...
My own puckish spirit needs to come out and play sometimes too, you know.
What? Ah, of course. I know what it is, Iris. It's that indoor herb garden that went on sale last week, isn't it? That's what you're after.
I want one so desperately, but I'm 4 pounds short. And even though you told me you didn't have any money to spare before, I knew you had a secret nest egg somewhere in this room.
Ah, you've outwitted me again. You really shouldn't let yourself be outwitted by a 10-year-old child, you know. Didn't Ryunosuke fall for it again, too? Come on.
So thank you for the loan, Hurley. Oh, but wait.
What's the matter?
Where's Susie? She's disappeared.
Oh, yes, that's right. She ran off up the stairs before, didn't she?
Oh, what are you all still doing here? We have to evacuate. It won't be long before the fire is... Ah! Sorry, Susie. Children will get up to mischief once in a while, you know, but it's all perfectly harmless.
Harmless, maybe, but oh so devious. So, what did Susato go for?
Oh well, at least nobody was hurt.
Apart from Napoleon, but my secret hoard. Now, tell us, Miss Susato, what is it that you went so fleet-footedly to fetch?
Sorry? Oh, no, nothing. This is just... No, this is nothing. Susie, that's your notebook detailing all of Runo's trials, isn't it? It's bulging at the seams.
What? Ah, a testament to the various people you've helped over the past months. Miss Susato,
Well, I am your judicial assistant, aren't I, after all? I would do anything to ensure the safety of those records, even risk my life if necessary. I mean, it's very important to me. It's like a diary of everything we've achieved together.
I'm getting all teary-eyed now. Yes, in stark contrast to a certain someone who would have fetched his Dharma doll, I must say. Well, that was sweet. Huh. Now, episode 5, at Naruhodo's Legal Consultancy. An escapade in Naruhodo's legal consultancy where Susato appears to be rather irritated, because it seems Ryunosuke has been buying a little too much bric-a-brac and now the whole place is brimming with things they don't need, and his latest purchase has really rocked the boat with Iris and Susato. This should be fun. Hello? I'm back.
Oh, hello, Mr. Naruhodo. Did you have a good outing? Hi, Runo. Huh? What's the matter? Your eyes are as big as dinner plates.
Iris, I wasn't expecting to see you here.
I've just made some tea, Mr. Naruhodo. Would you like a cup?
A cup or two? Yes, Definite tea.
Alright, Runo, what's going on? You're acting extremely strangely.
What? Me? No, not at all. I'm as normal can be. Normality itself, see?
Huh. Not again, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh.
Sorry? Not what again? What do you mean, Susie? Whenever he goes out on his own lately, he always seems to come back with a peculiar new purchase.
Peculiar? Peculiar? What's peculiar about the things I've bought?
You seem to think that anything British is a curio you simply must have. You keep buying items of bric-a-brac even though you don't know what they are. Well, there are rather a lot of bric-a-brac shops and pawnbrokeries and the like around here.
It's when I've been to Lord Strongheart's to give my weekly report. I'm always so nervous beforehand. On the way home, I just find myself in those shops and... Yes, alright, I can't deny it, I've bought something.
You're right, you can't deny it, because your eyes are wider than ever. You really ought to put up a warning sign about them. They're bigger than some potholes around here.
Wow. It's hard to resist things in the bric-a-brac shop. It's also cheap. Mr. Sholmes has given me lots of useful advice about how to pick out the real bargains.
You must remember, Runo, that Hurley likes to have fun with you. Take his advice with a big pinch of salt.
Well, that's true. That thing you told me was a pot stand wasn't a pot stand at all. But I'd never have guessed it was a collapsible top hat.
No, and I'd never have guessed that you could fill up this once empty room so quickly. Honestly, it's overflowing with things we don't need now. I mean, look at those scales. Not once have you weighed something on them.
I know, but ever since I first stood on the defense's bench in court, I don't know why, but I've just really wanted my own little set of scales.
Let's see it then, Mr. Naruhodo. What have you come home with today?
Oh, well, it's, one of these.
What is it? It looks all dry and shriveled up in a ball. Really, Mr. Naruhodo, what is it?
It's a sea anemone.
An anemone?
Yes, I mean, I know it doesn't look like it at the moment. It's all shriveled up, like you said.
Aren't sea anemones living creatures? The ones that dance about on the seabed.
Yes, exactly. The ones that dance about on the seabed.
Oh, they sell sea anemones in bric-a-brac shops here in Britain.
I feel like this was made at my expense. Come on. This is so hard to say. I don't know whether they normally do or not, but I do know that I bought one today.
But why, Runo?
Well, yes, for the aquarium, of course.
Aquarium? I don't know that word.
Well, according to the shopkeeper, keeping sea creatures in tanks was hugely popular here in London before.
Oh yes, some people have some beautiful fish in seawater tanks, it's true. Having an aquarium became popular because the old glass tax was abolished.
Ha ha! The callback.
There it is again, rearing its ugly head, the subject of taxation. It was a real craze for a while. Everyone in London had one.
For a while?
Yes, it didn't last long. People's enthusiasm soon waned. It's just far too much work to be changing the seawater regularly in a city like London. Never a truer word said, I'm sure.
You'd think people might have realized that from the start, really, wouldn't you? So the man who bought a sea anemone without an aquarium to go with it.
Anyway, that was long before I was born. So now everyone jokes that there's an unloved aquarium covered in dust in every attic in the capital.
And it's true. There's one in this attic, too. When I told the man in the bric-a-brac shop about it, he had these words of wisdom. That's why this is the age of the sea anemone. And that made a lot of sense to me.
It made sense to you, did it? But, Runo, this anemone is completely dried up.
You just need to soak it in water overnight and it'll be as good as new. That's what the man said.
I'm not sure that it works in the same way as dried wakame seaweed, Mr. Naruhodo.
Once I've saved some money, I'm going to buy some prawns to keep this little fellow company.
Oh, how exciting! Your office will be teeming with life. Will it really?
Britain is a funny country, though. I mean, a sea anemone craze?
Well, they say people in glass houses about comments like that here, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't forget that there was a very curious rabbit craze in our own country not so very long ago.
A mortifying chapter that people will try to erase from the history books 100 years from now, I'm sure.
You know, there was another craze as well before the aquarium one. Have you heard of Wardian cases?
Wardy... what? No, I've definitely never heard of them.
They were little glazed cases for growing plants indoors, I believe.
Oh, I see. For plant lovers to raise their favorite tropical plants.
That's right, like different types of ferns.
Ferns?
Do you mean those rather dull plants with lots of fronds for leaves? They're not dull at all. Ferns are lovely plants. I think people wanted to recreate the exotic foliage of the tropics in their own homes.
So they grew ferns. I mean, ferns, sea anemones. Londoners certainly have a knack for the obscure.
Well, thinking about it, my grandfather loved the moss on his bonsai. He looked after it better than the trees.
It seems like the more obscure something is, the more it interests people. I really like rocks. Like, I really like rocks. I have a collection of rocks. I like the cool colors.
Maybe. Anyway, the Wardian case craze didn't last very long. Now, most of those little glass cases are just gathering dust, I think. But haven't I seen one in your room, Iris? Oh, very observant of you, Susie. Yes, that's right. Mine's certainly not gathering dust. I grow tropical herbs in it. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I really must ask you to stop all this frivolous buying of strange things.
Yes, all right. Sorry. It's just that, well, think about Mr. Sholmes's room. He has all sorts of peculiar trinkets lying around.
Oh, well, yes, that's true. And they seem to be growing in number. Recently I've noted a blowpipe, a few beryl crystals set in a twisted piece of gold, a gold-rimmed pince-nez. A pince-nez?
Isn't a pince-nez one of those very tiny little red cup-shaped hats with like a gold cord coming out of it? I think that's what that is. No, a pince-nez is a type of eyewear. Yeah. It's the... I remember because there's a character in Final Fantasy XIV by the name of Hancock, who wears a pair of pince-nez with red glass and gold frames, and you can get his glasses in a recent dungeon thing that just came out. I was like, oh, pince-nez, what a weird name. So I remember that. I spotted a small gramophone record in there the other day, so I slipped it onto the gramophone. But it was just a whispering voice saying Norbury and nothing more. What could it possibly be about?
Those are all mementos of cases that Hurley solved over the years.
Exactly. That's what I want to create in here. Just that sort of atmosphere.
Ah, a room full of meaningful trinkets, each with their own unique history, you mean?
Yes, that. I knew you'd understand, Miss Susato.
But, Mr. Naruhodo, none of the things you've bought for the room have any connection with any of our cases.
Oh, don't they?
Well, for example, take that splendid but rather weather-beaten top hat. That wasn't used as evidence in any of the cases we've worked on, was it? Oh, so you have two top hats if you count the collapsible one as well?
No, the collapsible one is a pot stand. As far as I'm concerned, anyway. But the other day, when we were in court, they were everywhere, weren't they? Top hats, I mean.
Well, here in Britain, of course, they're the mark of a true gentleman, so that's hardly surprising. If a man isn't wearing a top hat when he ventures out of doors, he'll be looked down upon. Gosh, it has very strict rules, doesn't it? The English Gentleman's Code.
I've been wondering how I'd look in a top hat recently. After all, my university uniform is black as well, so I think it would be very in keeping.
Oh, what a good idea! Go on then, Runo, try it on.
I want to see.
The lesson here, I suppose, is that the juxtaposition of student and gentleman is just so strange and wrong.
Well, I'd rather it didn't suit me anyway. I mean, these hats are ridiculous. I'd be willing to bet every foreigner who sees one of these for the first time thinks exactly the same thing. Why is that man wearing a chimney on his head?
People in glass houses, remember, Runo?
What do you mean?
Well, what about Japanese Chanmage top knots? Those haircuts are the height of ridiculous.
Ugh, true.
At least you can take the hat off once you have a chanmaki. It's chan your head for good. I'd be willing to bet every foreigner who sees a chanmev, that thing, for the first time thinks exactly the same thing. Why is that man wearing a cannon on his head?
I suppose that's what it means to have... Oh.
I suppose that's what it means to have different cultures, isn't it?
On the subject of hats, the one Mr. Sholmes always wears is really very strange, don't you think?
I beg your pardon, Mr. Naruhodo. What a thing to say.
Yeah, there's no deers to stalk in this city.
That hat is the very essence of Mr. Sholmes. Yes, without his deer stalker, the great detective would be unrecognizable.
It's called a deer stalker? That's a surprisingly swanky name. Swanky.
It's the hat of a hunter, just like the flat cap.
Oh. He wears it because he's hunting the most dangerous game of all. Man. I get it. I suddenly get it. Man, I always took Sherlock Holmes's hat at face value. Huh.
I made up my mind long ago to visit Regent Street and buy one for myself.
I'm not sure if it's going to fit on over your hair.
Well, I think it's perfect for a great detective who stalks his criminal quarry. What do you think is strange about it anyway?
Well, you've seen it. It has 2 brims, one at the front and one at the back. Why do you need 2 brims on a hat? Surely one at the front is enough, no? No, see, when you are about to catch a Pokemon, you gotta turn your hat around to show your determination, so if you have a brim on both ends, that's full brimmal coverage. It's advanced tech.
Huh. One moment, please.
If you ask me, it's just Mr. Sholmes' madcap personality coming through. I bet it's so that he doesn't have to think about which way around to put it on or something like that.
Mr. Sholmes does not have a madcap personality. He always has a clear head. Deer stalkers were made for hunters who had to hide in thickets when they were stalking their prey. The brim at the back was designed to stop the stalks of plants scratching the backs of their necks. Oh, so that's the reason. Thank you, Iris, for educating us.
Mr. Sholmes doesn't spend a lot of time in thickets, though, does he?
Well, no, that's true.
I'm telling you, it's just his impetuous personality. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it, firmly. Ah, here you all are. Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Sholmes.
I've not long since made some tea, Mr. Sholmes. Would you like a cup?
I see I've come at a good time, Mr. Sato. Thank you. Now, I have something I should like you all to see. I've designed myself a brand new Great Detective's hat. What the? There's a brim.
At the front and at the back. And at both sides. 4 brims in total.
Advanced tech. Your observation is quite correct, my dear madame. I'm a busy man, you see. But with this hat, whichever way I put it on, I shall always have it pointing the correct way.
Oh.
With my previous hat, I could, in an impetuous moment, wear it erroneously with the brims on either side. That's impressively clumsy, I would say.
And I must regretfully say I think your madcap theory was correct after all.
But really, Mr. Sholmes, with brims on all 4 sides like that, wouldn't it just be better to wear a top hat instead?
Oh, yes. Then however you put it on, you'd have a brim all around.
What? So true. So true. How could I have been so blinkered to this fact until now? Well, fortunately, I happen to have 2 top hats here. If you just lift the pot off it, you're welcome to try that one there. Indeed I shall, my good fellow. Much obliged. Won't it be really hot?
Oh dear, Hurley. It looks terrible. More terrible than I could possibly have imagined.
Oh, that's not good. Maybe it's because of your long face paired with the tall hat, it just doesn't work.
Well, I think it's very nice, Mr. Sholmes, even if it will have the whole world in fits of laughter.
Ugh! I should never have meddled with it. Give me a deer stalker for everyone. Forevermore. And give me my Regulation University hat forevermore. Oh, that's Ryunosuke.
There's still hope that you'll graduate one day, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't give up.
Huh. Well, that's 5 down, 3 to go. It's pretty impressive that they're all exactly 20 minutes long. I'm lucky. Huh. Well, yeah, let's see about episode 6. In Mr. Natsume's room. In this escapade in Mr. Natsume's room, it's revealed that the Japanese scholar was once a teacher of English. He has much to say on the cultural differences between Japan and Britain, as well as on sentimentality, Shakespeare, and cycling.
So, Mr. Natsume, are you really returning home to Japan?
Yes, indeed I am. Everything is arranged already.
We'll be sad to see you go. And after Runo worked so hard to prove your innocence as well. What a shame. It feels like it was all a wasted effort.
Don't say that! I know what you're suggesting. Now, calm down, Mr. Natsume. It's all fine, really. You are in good company here, sir. If you fear the Reaper, you needn't hide that fact.
I'm a proud citizen of the Empire of Japan. I'm not a scaredy cat.
Talking of cats, Mr. Sholmes just casually threw one among the pigeons there. Huh? A man like me belongs in Japan, not here. That's what I've come to realize. Huh, I wonder. A mustache such as yours is eminently suited to London, I would say. There goes Mr. Sholmes throwing another cat in. Oh, it's a metaphor. I was thinking of Wagahai. The moment I arrived in this city, I noticed everyone in London laughs at me behind my back, like hyenas. Hysterical hyenas ha-haing horribly.
I'm sure that's not true, Mr. Natsume.
Oh, but it is. Whenever I turn around and peer down the fog-filled streets, all I see is foreigners everywhere.
Well, there's you, Runo, and Susie in here, so that's 3 foreigners out of 5 people. I take your point.
Only the other day I was taking a stroll through the fog as usual when a young man approached me from ahead. He was pale and gaunt, his back arched like a cat. Observing his wretchedness moved me so deeply. Are you sure you weren't looking in a mirror? Ah, I thought to myself, I'm not the only one suffering in this hell. But do you know what? Can you imagine? It was just my own reflection in a shop window. I knew it. A stunning, stinging, stupefying surprise! Don't forget slap in the face. Everyone started laughing at me. Gentlemen thereabouts, ladies passing by, even the man in the shop window. But weren't you the man in the... Oh, never mind. Yes, and a certain great detective would like to be included among the mirthful. Ugh! Mr. Sholmes is really going for Soseki-san today.
Well, I for one think you're a very handsome man, Mr. Natsume.
There, did you hear that? This 10-year-old girl thinks you're handsome. Isn't that wonderful? That makes me feel suspiciously warm inside. He looks genuinely delighted. The point is, we Japanese are humble and modest. Studying on foreign soil surrounded by foreign people, how could anyone possibly enjoy that? No one could. It's impossible. If you're genuine Japanese.
Huh, if you say so. Actually, it would appear that there is someone. A Japanese man who studied in a foreign country and seems to have thrived in the experience. There is? Mr. Ogai Mori. I believed he studied in Germany.
Mr. Mori, pray tell us more of the fellow.
Well, today he's a very successful author in Japan.
Oh, I've heard of him. He's the professor who wrote My Himi, isn't he?
My Himi?
I suppose in English the title would be Dancing Queen, maybe? So young and sweet.
Oh, I see. A tale of a woman who waltzed her way through the world, perhaps. You really needn't make up a silly translation, you know. It's already officially called The Dancing Girl in English. It seems Mr. Mori greatly enjoyed his time in Germany. He became close with a local lady while he was there. Close, you say? With a local lady?
A compatriot's criminally contradictory conduct. Well, I suppose your experience of studying abroad depends to a large extent on your character. As they say, many men, many minds. Mr. Mori has an open mind, Mr. Natsume a closed one. Possibly a slightly black and white view, do you think, Mr. Sholmes?
Well, anyway, if that's how you feel about being abroad, why do you choose to study here?
Wasn't it to further our nation's understanding of the English language or something?
Yes, that's right.
So what were you doing in Japan before you came to Great Britain then?
I was a school teacher, of English, of course. A bit cursory, perhaps, but I've managed to discover some information about Mr. Natsume's teaching days.
That's just a little outside the field of law, isn't it, Mrs. Sato?
Well, let me pose you a question, Mr. Naruhodo. If you had to translate the English phrase, I love you, into Japanese, what would it become?
That's easy. Eishiteru, or Sukidesu.
Wrong. According to Mr. Natsume's teachings, at least.
What?
Would you like to explain, Mr. Natsume?
Yes, of course. Your research was very thorough. I always used to tell my students that we Japanese don't express ourselves that way. Rather, we might say, Suki ga kirei desu ne. My dear Mr. Natsume, I must interject. Suki ga kirei desu ne would translate as, the moon is beautiful, isn't it?
I know that. The point is that we Japanese are reticent when it comes to expressing our emotions. We prefer to show our feelings of adoration, our suki, by appreciating the beauty of the moon, the suki.
Ah, using the suki to express suki. It's an amusing play on words, I see.
No, or in language you might understand better, bad Sholmes. It's not a play on words, it's subtle, it's humble, it's fleeting and beautiful, it's art. Isn't it just being shy?
My dear fellow, the foreign dancing girl will forever be out of your reach with such an attitude. Speaking of the beauty of the moon, have you ever seen just maybe one magical night where the moon just captures your attention in a whole new way, and it's so beautiful in that night sky, and you recognize it as being a particularly lovely once-in-a-blue moon occasion, and maybe you bring out your phone to take a photograph of it, and then when you look at the photograph you see that it's completely failed to capture the moon's beauty. It's a pale imitation. I want you to remember that the next time you see a photograph of yourself that's unflattering. You're beautiful. Yeah. Imagine how the great Mr. Mori would act. He would win the lady's heart in a flash with a well-placed and unrestrained I love you.
Ugh! That's smooth, Mr. Mori. Am I destined to live in his shadow forever?
Just what sort of man is he in that imagination of yours?
The fact is, I just can't settle in this foggy London town with all its foreign inhabitants. I've lost count of the number of different lodgings I tried before I found myself here. As it happens, I even lived on Baker Street at one time. No, really? A Sal scholar lives near there, a man by the name of William James Craig. His knowledge of Sal is unsurprised.
Sale?
He's been a great inspiration to me over the...
Forgive the interruption, but am I supposed to be familiar with this Sal of which you speak?
It's Shakespeare, of course, Shakespeare. But in Japanese we write it as Sa and O. It's a phonetic representation using kanji characters, so England is Igarisu and America is America.
Oh yeah, I guess America would exist, right. 1776 and all that. And this is like, definitely like the mid to late 1800s. I think. Yeah, America would exist, huh. Come to think of it, we use the same character as ri in one word and risu in another. Talk about confusing. So Shakespeare is Sao in Japanese. Presumably the Sa is a brutal attempt at the first Sha, in which case where's the spear?
I'd never thought of that. We only have the O left.
Which could, even the most charitable interpretation, only be a brutal attempt at old man.
It seems to me that whoever had the job of deciding on the characters for his name got bored very early on. Complete kanji character catastrophe!
So then, on to the burning question. What about me? How do you write my name?
Sorry?
Herlock Sholmes, my dear fellow. There must be Japanese characters for my name.
Oh dear. I am sorry, Mr. Sholmes, but none exist that I'm aware of.
What? Am I really nothing to you Japanese? In that case, it is a matter of paramount importance. You must construct my name in kanji at once.
Oh, well... We could use a kanji that's pronounced so to start with, and then use one more to give... So-o, perhaps. I think that would be about right, Mr. Sholmes. But that's almost the same as Sa-o, isn't it?
Yes, you employ the dreaded O. I don't want people to confuse me with an old man who died centuries ago.
I'm sure the world's greatest literary figure would rather not be confused with you either.
Well, the world's greatest detective is still youthful and full of vigor, so how about so handsome?
Oh yes, that sounds wonderful. I'm sure everyone will be calling you that 100 years from now. How can she say that with a straight face? What about me then? Iris. Perhaps Aihime, since the second character doesn't seem to matter. Aihime? Oh yes, Princess of Love. That's an adorable name for you, Iris.
Stop, please! With a name like that, Mr. Mori is likely to turn up at any moment and rashly declare, I love you.
This Mori-san has become quite a character in Soseki-san's mind.
And you, Mr. Naruhodo, might I venture Kurabozu as a fitting name for you, as in the Dark Monk?
Yeah, I knew that one. One of my favorite, I guess, yokai you could say, is the Umibozu, Sea Monk. Just the giant silhouette of a head in the ocean at the dark of night with blazing white eyes. It's terrifying. I'm not that spooked out by like thalassophobia, fear of deep water, or like big sea monsters, but Umibozu freak me out. I love them.
Oh, that's very good. It describes you perfectly, Runo.
So you think I'll be wearing this black varsity uniform for the rest of my days, do you?
But Mr. Naruhodo already has a Japanese name. I don't believe he needs another. Well, anyway, we were talking about your life here in London, weren't we, Mr. Natsume? You should just get out and have fun.
The landlady has said as much to me too. Mrs. Garrett? But it wasn't fun at all. It was frightful.
Whatever do you mean?
A cycle incident! Alright. An incident? On a bicycle? Oh yes, come to think of it. There's an old bicycle parked just outside, isn't there? It's in a sorry state, though.
I tried to say no to her, but she insisted I took it for a ride. Perhaps my pronunciation was wrong. So I took my life in my hands and attempted to ride the steel spiderweb stallion to a nearby park.
Wow.
I really don't think there's anything wrong with your I really don't think there's anything wrong with your pronunciation, Mr. Natsume.
Joan Garrideb isn't the kind of woman to take no for an answer.
If you're going to die, you might as well die in beautiful surroundings, so the park was my first thought. After a whole day of dicing with death, I emerged with only relatively minor bruises.
So you got the knack of it.
Don't be silly. Dying isn't something you can learn to do. Mr. Natsume, you keep talking about dicing with death and dying and so forth, but riding a bicycle is supposed to be fun. Oh no, that's just what people tell you, but it's an old wives' tale. Is it? I mean, just consider the real name of the vehicle. It's not called a dicycle for nothing. How anyone expects to use such an aptly named vehicle to move forwards is beyond me. Pedal power promises pain. I didn't think it was possible to get worse with practice. I'm lucky to be alive. Although I must say, after looking death in the eye for a whole week, I did at last manage to mount the steed reliably. And notwithstanding a few wobbles, I found I could make progress in the forward direction. What a triumph.
Deduction is much the same. When first presented with a problem, the mental exertion of trying to solve it leads only to bitter disappointment. But after a week of picking one's way carefully along the path of reasoning and thought, one begins to see results.
So, is that why all of your off-the-cuff deductions always seem half-baked? What a wonderful insight into your extraordinary mind, Mr. Sholmes. Unfortunately, after wobbling down the street, I noticed there were little stones everywhere. Death traps! Not that way, I said to myself. But the wild vehicle wouldn't listen. It wobbled me on and on down the street. So, of course, I hit one of those deadly stones and the crazy colt threw me. It's just my luck. Dicicles are the epitome of my pitiful life. I wish I could disagree. On the same subject, I'm sure there's a famous American author who's written about having a similar experience. Oh yes, I've read that essay too, Iris.
Some of us are better read than others.
Well, no more dicicles for me. Oh, Mr. Natsume, at least you have an interesting anecdote to take with you back to Japan, if nothing else.
You always manage to put a positive spin on things, don't you, Mr. Sato? Personally, I haven't mounted a bicycle for some time.
No, me neither.
That's good. So how about a jaunt? We shall all ride out together.
Huh?
That sounds great. I'll perch behind Mr. Sato.
But the sun is going down. It will be pitch black before long. London street lamps are very bright, you know, and the fog isn't too thick today. And my beloved ride is all bent out of shape.
My dear fellow, if you're bound to topple the vehicle anyway, it's fitting that it's already bent out of shape.
It's settled then. Come along, Mr. Natsume. Shall we go?
Tsukigakure desune. Don't tell me that's his translation of no thank you as well. Indeed, Mr. Natsume, the moon is at its most beautiful at precisely this time in the evening.
Oh. We're not Japanese. You can't beat around the bush with us. What a weird and wonderful world!
Well, that was funny. These are delightful. And honestly, I'm starting to feel a little remorse for never being able to play these similar side stories that existed for the Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright crossover game. Yeah, that game had a bunch of DLC, but I couldn't find a way to make it happen. Sorry about that. If I could have, I would have. Oh well. So yeah, I guess if the pacing continues, we'll finish these two next time in just 40 minutes or so, and well, I guess I'll end the video after that. So yeah, fun stuff, and it's great seeing these characters again. I like that they're definitely choosing the greatest hits. Kazuma, Iris and Herlock, Natsume, and what looks like Van Zeeks. Huh. That one has me quite interested. I think it'll be quite fitting that that'll be the finale of these little side stories. Looking forward to that. So yeah, I'm Zephyr the Jester. This has been more of the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I'll catch you next time. So until then, please take care.